4 is the magic number. Yes, Mercedes won the Formula 1 US Grand Prix and with it their 4th Constructors' Championship in as many seasons. It was always going to happen, especially after the wretched luck at Ferrari in Asia. But still, massive congratulations. Welcome, everyone, to this latest edition of Beyond the Finish Line. This time we're taking a closer look at the 2017 Formula 1 United States Grand Prix. And trust me, there are things to discuss here. It wasn't as processional of a victory for Hamilton as it might have seemed. Confession time. Thanks to the optimistic drinking rules, I have to say I was quite drunk by the 25th lap of the race. This, of course, a direct consequence of downing my drinks for the retirements of Hülkenberg, Verline, Ricciardo and Alonso, but also due to Verstappen's relentless charge through the field. So yeah, I really had to take some notes during this Grand Prix. Having missed the better part of Friday practice, Vettel and Ferrari had effectively turbocharged Mercedes and Hamilton's chances for the win. By changing the floor on Vettel's car, Ferrari were left in the dark as to what was the perfect setup on a track where there is a fine balance between speed and tire management. As a result, Sebastian's car was ill-prepared to handle the Circuit of the Americas, where Hamilton had no such issues. Take nothing away from Vettel though. That final Q3 attempt on Saturday was sublime. Even without the best setup, he still qualified just 2/10 down on pole sitter Lewis. Bottas was absolutely fuming with his underwhelming P3 on the grid, while Ricciardo and Raikkonen nailed the same lap time in Q3 down to the 1,000th of a second. Max Verstappen was P6 but got demoted all the way down to 16th due to the introduction of the latest Renault spec engine to his Red Bull. The Force India's signs on his Renault debut and a formidable Fernando Alonso completed the top 10. Now, legendary boxing announcer Michael Buffer made a pretty good job at introducing each driver to the crowd. It was quite a spectacle, but it went on for so long. By the time Hamilton rolled out through the curtains, it was almost time for the Mexican Grand Prix. The thing is, this sort of introduction works at boxing events, where there are only 2 contestants. When there are 20, spanning across 10 teams, hailing from places America has no knowledge of, it just doesn't work. Anyway, back to the action on track. On Sunday, track temperatures had cooled down. This meant a more aggressive front wing angle was required. Hamilton made sure he got it. Meanwhile, at Ferrari, they were still not so sure about their setup and they left the car to its Saturday specs. It was another slight but significant blow to the red team. Lights out, and Vettel makes not only a great start but also a superb couple of gear shifts up the incline to turn 1. Hamilton moves across the track to cover him. The Mercedes and Ferrari machines take turn 1 in complete sync, but the red car is on the inside. Vettel leads Hamilton. Then comes Bottas, Ricciardo, while Ocon nails a great move on Raikkonen for 5th, and Alonso got ahead of Sainz for 7th in the S's part of the track. Verstappen was up 3 places already from his P16 starting position. Truly a raging bull among kittens. On the second lap, Raikkonen sliced past Ocon for 5th and set about closing the gap to Ricciardo and Bottas ahead. By this point, Sebastian was about 2 seconds ahead of Lewis, but going hard on his tires. Therefore, Hamilton was looking for the right opportunity to pounce. The moment came on lap 6 between turns 10 and 11. With a little bit of DRS help, Lewis diving out of the slipstream of Vettel's car and planting his Mercedes down the inside. Courageous, clean move. Disheartened, Sebastian simply drove on at the pace dictated by his increasingly worn out tires. His one and only chance left for spoiling Hamilton's party, the holy grail of the undercut. Behind the leading 2, Bottas and Ricciardo were in a thrilling war, with Raikkonen just behind ready to take advantage of any mistake. The best moment of this battle was the insanely late dive of Daniel on Valtteri into turn 1, which forced the Finn wide, both cars going side by side for 3 corners. Bottas emerged just ahead, but a price had been paid. His floor was severely damaged by his off-track excursion, and from this moment on, he had to cope with aero instability. Complaining of no front grip, Ricciardo was brought into the pits on lap 12, switching to super softs. It was impossible to make a one-stop race by stopping so early. At least one Red Bull was locked on a 2-stop strategy, but who else was going to follow them into the pits? The answer came on lap 16. Vettel came in for a set of softs. The setup was so awful that he had destroyed his left front tire. By this point, Hamilton had a juicy 4.5 seconds gap to Sebastian, so Mercedes were all eyes on Vettel's pace in order to prevent the undercut. Seb's outlap was not stellar, and his next one was okayish, but the silver team wouldn't risk it. Hamilton pitted at the end of lap 19 and emerged only 0.6 ahead of Vettel. Where were those 4+ seconds gone? It turned out that Sebastian left the track at turn 19, kept his foot on the accelerator and gained a considerable amount of time just there. Slightly bemused but still focused on the job at hand, Hamilton set out to build a safety gap to the Ferrari. Bottas, by this point free of the Ricciardo threat by the virtue of Renault engine issues for the Aussie, was battling with Raikkonen. Mercedes brought their Finn into the pits on lap 18 to prevent an undercut from Kimi. Bafflingly, Ferrari left Raikkonen out there for a further 2 laps in an effort to slow Hamilton down, but on fresher rubber, Lewis was unstoppable. Having started on a different strategy, Verstappen briefly led the race before his pit stop on the 23rd lap. He rejoined in 5th, some way behind Raikkonen but lapping significantly faster. However, it soon became clear that Red Bull were planning a 2-stop for Max as well. Lap 37 and Hamilton has a 7 seconds gap over Vettel. Bottas and Raikkonen going very strongly behind. Verstappen pitted again and it became apparent that he too was going to push Vettel hard at the tail end of the race for that P2. Ferrari responds by bringing Vettel in just 1 lap after the Dutchman. He emerges about 2 seconds ahead of Max and they both start to close in on the Finns ahead. Raikkonen was allowed to go full-on attack on Bottas and by lap 42 with DRS he nails the move into turn 12. With 5 laps to go, Vettel plants a great move on the struggling Mercedes into turn 1 while also lapping the McLaren of Van Dorn. Soon enough, Raikkonen moves to one side and allows his teammate to take P2 while Verstappen gets past Bottas. Having used most of its fuel to overtake Valtteri, Kimi had some serious fuel savings to do, and this brought Max into podium contention on the last lap. A superb move by the Dutchman sees the Red Bull getting the better of the Ferrari into turn 16. But it wasn't as simple as that. Yes, Max did get within DRS range on that final lap, but he completely missed turn 9, gaining a huge advantage in the same way Vettel did during the first part of the race. By going off the track twice on the same lap, he did get past Raikkonen per se, but he was also handed a 5 seconds time penalty. And personally, I would say rightfully so. You can go off the track in special circumstances, but not when the car in front dictates the pace, and most definitely not twice on the same lap. Cue some very strong comments after the race by the Red Bull gang while Verstappen had to walk out of the green room in order for Raikkonen to take his rightful place on the podium. Ocon, Sainz and Perez had a great scrap for the most part of the race for P6, 7 and 8, while Massa and the returning Daniel Kvyat scored the final points of the US Grand Prix. Stroll and Van Dorn were also close to the points, while Brendan Hartley was also impressive on his Formula 1 debut. But my driver of the Formula 1 United States weekend has to be Carlos Sainz in his debut race for Renault. Take nothing away from Verstappen, who drove magnificently through the field, but truth be told, he is in a better car than 75% of the grid. As for Sainz, not only he scored a very solid P7 in a car he is not familiar with, but also he showed great pace against his new teammate Hülkenberg. Now, roll on Mexico. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what are your thoughts of this US Grand Prix and who was your driver of the weekend. Like and share this video if you've enjoyed it. If you're new around here, please do subscribe for more F1 related content. I've been Chip from the Digital Grandstand. You can chat to me on Twitter at chip_DGS, and I'll see you again very soon.